Starting 502 Podcast, Presley, Meyer, Jake Hook, back with you as always, brought to you by Mr. and Mrs. Bourbon. We're excited to bring on a guest this week, Mark Lieberman. Most in the area probably are familiar with Mark, former assistant coach at the University of Louisville, does a lot of radio work here in the city now, and it sounds like you're going to be out at the PGA this weekend. What do you got going on right now, Mark?
I'll be out there for depending on what the weather's like, but because I'm part of ESPN, I'll be doing being on the air as well and showing my broad skills and not just talking basketball. So get a chance again. It's great for something like this at Valhalla and to go out there and just see the great players. And how many more times is Tiger Woods going to play? So check out him a couple times, and then I'll be in Cincinnati this weekend as well. I'm going to watch some travel teams play, doing some stuff on behalf of Nike. And if I see a player that's pretty good and might want to come to Holy Cross, that doesn't hurt either.
There you go. There you go. So do you have any golf background at all, or you're just going to be out there with the radio station? What's the situation there?
Not much pedigree as far as other than hacking up a course. So yeah, just going to be on a couple shows on Drew Diener's in the morning, be out there with him. And, you know, he does a fantastic job. So I'll join in for a minute or two, and then just get a chance to take in all the pop and circumstance of the PGA out here.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, no better event and no better place to hold it than in Louisville, Kentucky. It sounds like they're going to have over 200,000 people come through in the 4-day stretch, which is unbelievable. Great venue out there at Valhalla. Yeah, and that's the thing. Even if you're not super acclimated with the game of golf, or you're just like a weekend golfer or whatever, it's a great event to check out. It makes you very prideful for your city when you're out there. But I'll be out there with you tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday for those listening in the future. And I think we might be undercover a lot, Mark.
We might be. Yeah. Just find the tents that maybe have an adult beverage or two, and we should be just fine. I'll look for you, Presley, and I'll see if you can I could pull you into one of those tents, and we can.
There you go. Yeah,
continue our discussion.
I'll be looking for Nikki V's big head. We saw him down there at 5-iron a couple nights ago, and
can't miss it.
No, you can't miss it. You can't miss it. But yeah, I mean, it's a perfect segue though. You just talked about the biggest news in your life recently. Hired as the head basketball coach at Holy Cross. Tell us how that came about. What was the process like? I know you said about 2-3 months ago you're really interested in getting back in the game. What was that process like, and ultimately why Holy Cross?
I love teaching the game. I love being around it. And look, with Coach Kelsey coming in, I've known him a long time. He's going to do a heck of a job. Having Peyton on the staff is fantastic. He's going to bring his own guys, and there's a limited number of options as far as what you're going to do. Having said that, before I was hired by Rick Pitino at University of Louisville, I was a Catholic school head coach in Monsignor Pace High School in Miami, and had great success there, had some really good players, and was fortunate enough to coach the McDonald's All-American game, coach overseas for Nike at the All-Asian camp, and then in Turkey for 5-star. So those opportunities at Monsignor Pace opened all that stuff up for me, and we brought in some great guys, and we were able to win, and that was great. And to go back to the Catholic school environment in a great situation with a great administration. Danielle, the principal, she's amazing. And the people there are just embraced it. And I know what kind of family atmosphere that is. So I wanted to be judicious about what I did and make sure it's the right choice. And ultimately it's because of my daughter, Emery, who lives here in Louisville, lives in Indiana. And so she's 10, and I just didn't want to miss a thing that she's doing. So, Presley, before I moved back, I was coaching at Southeastern Louisiana. I was the associate coach there, and we were successful. But I was driving 8.5 hours each way to see her, or flying, and so on. Now, tomorrow she's going to play some pickleball with me. She's going to go to Cincinnati with me to watch some players, and it's just great to spend time with her. That's the most important thing to me.
Yeah, I mean, you can't place enough emphasis on the home life. I've in my personal life traveled way too much for work, and I can absolutely attest to once the babies start coming, I'm going to be here in Louisville a lot more. So, no, I mean, just listening to you on the radio, listening to your passion for for not only basketball, but sports as a whole, life in general, movies, TV shows, pop
There you
culture.
go. There you
Yeah.
go. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. We're all over that. So we're gonna have to quiz you on some movies
Come
because
on now. Let's go. Bring it.
there's my fiance is very into older movies,
Mm-hmm.
and I sometimes can't get into them as much. So you're gonna have to talk me into some good. I don't know what avenue that we're gonna go down.
Well, you
But
just mentioned movies she likes, and yeah, I have eclectic taste in all TV and movies, so I can help you out, Presley. No
the
worries.
the ones that we can't get off of right now, Star Wars and Alien. So I'd never seen any of the Star Wars movies before, which is crazy. I know that's
I
crazy.
gotta go, Presley.
How?
Yeah, Jake, I gotta go. I'm sorry, I
I
can't do
Yeah,
understand.
this
No,
anymore.
I know.
completely get
But
it. It was good to talk to you, man.
the Alien and Aliens, those movies are great. Sigourney Weaver, love those. Those I
Yes.
think 70s or 80s, right? Yeah, I mean,
70s was the original, and
yeah,
I think like 8 or 9 years later, James Cameron made Aliens, and
yes,
that was the one with
yes,
Sigourney Weaver where she comes back and saves the day.
yes.
So that was a really good movie.
Those are fantastic. Yeah, we can't get off of those. Not to get too sidetracked. The Holy Cross.
Yep.
What's the roster looking like this season? You know,
Well, yeah.
what are we looking at? And I guess how does it differ? I mean, I know you've dipped your foot in dipped your toe in a lot of areas, right? You
Mm-hmm.
know, how does that differ getting back into the high school game?
Well, remember, I was a high school coach before I came to, I've coached 6 years of Division I basketball,
Mm-hmm.
but before that, I coached at the high school level, and so for me, it's a great opportunity to teach the game, and it was crazy because Dominic Yates from WKY just came over, and when I got the job, comes over to my house for an interview, and then the newspapers and the radio, and again, it's very humbling, but the fact that like all that attention is great. So, but to cut to the fact of being at Holy Cross, again, it was the conversations with people there, and not just the fact that it's winning at all costs, because I've never been a guy that puts principles over prizes, but it was a situation where, yeah, I can build something again. And it's coaching, no matter who you are, from Pat Kelsey to Pat Riley. It's about building something. That's what you want to see. You want to see the fruits of your labor, and it's a process. And to help all the relationships I have with all my former players and beyond just the basketball part, yeah, we want to win. I'm as competitive as any person out there, and I'm not just going out there to say, "Hey, nice job." No, we're going to
Right,
coach the heck out of them.
right.
But to be with young men and help them realize what they want, what their chance to play college basketball, to become better people. That's so important. As far as the roster goes, yeah, they graduated. They had a good team last year, and they graduated a bunch of guys.
Mm-hmm.
But they have some really good young talent, and it's a situation where if you build it, they will come. That's the two schools I built, the Heritage School and Monsignor Pace High School. We ended up having a bunch of Division I players winning championships. So plan on doing the same thing here. And unlike other situations, people were like, is he just using it as a stepping stone or whatnot? This is where I want to be. Like I said, it's about spending time with my daughter. And when you're in the college business, Presley, like the bottom line is you're always on call. You're like an emergency room doctor.
Right.
It's really, you have an hour or two to sleep, but you might get a call at 11, but you have to go over to the dorms, or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you're supposed to go and do something. No, you got to make sure that Wayne Blackshear is making sure he gets his work done. And then,
Mm-hmm.
You get a text from Kyle Couric. Hey, can I get in the gym at 6:30? Can we do a workout? Great. And then an hour later, you get a call from Peyton Siva. Hey, can we get in the gym? Can we do a workout? And that's okay. That's part of the gig.
Right.
But now priorities change, especially when I have a 10-year-old, and I can control the variables. I can control the narrative where, all right, if I need to spend time with her, I can.
Absolutely. Jake, did you have something? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I mean,
Okay,
that's just
good.
it's always seemed like a dream to be a college coach, but when you get down to the nitty gritty, it's just your life. Like, it's hard to have anything else going besides that. Just 24/7, 365.
Yeah, I loved it, but it's consuming, and
Mm-hmm.
it's such a bottom line business that's out in the open for everybody to see. It's not like, okay, your victories aren't really in the dark. It's for everybody to see, And yeah, so for like Coach Kelsey's situation, and I've been that, like with Richard Pitino, when I went with him as the associate coach at FIU after our 2 years at Louisville, it's consuming. It's his first year as the head coach. So, Jake, it's like you have to, they want to prove something. You're on that staff. It's not like a 9-to-5 job it's so much. And as far as just the basketball part, that's great. But grades, recruiting, making sure the locker room is going to be set up the way you want it. Make sure that we've sent out forms as far as making sure papers are signed and we have this and we're checking academics. It's consuming and it's great. And I love it. But especially in this situation, even with like Coach Kelsey, it's his first year. He wants to make sure this brand is exactly the vision he wants. And you have to be tireless and you really not a lot of time for yourself. And that's okay. I loved it, but priorities change.
Yeah. And especially with the transfer portal now, I mean, trying to get 11, you have no one on his roster, I guess, besides Aiden McCool, like adding 11 dudes in a month and moving to Louisville and trying to get your coaching staff set up. It's insane. It's extremely impressive what he's done over the last 5 weeks, 6 weeks now.
Yeah, no, what he's done is tremendous. And today, with Kason Pryor and getting Ruth's, the kid who was going to go to Michigan, 2 more great gets. He's constructing a roster that he wants, and it's not easy. Then you get them as a collective group, and then you have to make sure they understand exactly. It's a process to get them to buy in and terminology. There's so many mitigating factors. And to your point, Kamani Young, who's the associate head coach at Connecticut, I worked with him at FIU, and we're pretty close. The day after they win the national championship, they're scouring the portals. They have to replace guys, and before it used to be, it was a dead period and quiet period. You have time to decompress after something like that. Kevin Keats, we worked together at Louisville. The week before they go into the Final Four, he's hosting players, including Huntley Hatfield. He's hosting players as they're getting ready for the NCAA tournament, or excuse me, the Final Four. It's wild. It's crazy.
Yeah, they've got to fix that transfer portal. Like, it makes no sense to hurt those teams that make it to the Sweet 16 and the Final Four and the Elite Eight, and they're trying to balance winning an NCAA tournament game with also hosting 3 players. That's insane.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Yeah, I look at it kind of as they've almost made it like a handicap, similar to how they would in the NFL draft, right? If you're tanking, you get that first pick, but that means that you had a terrible season the year before, similar to how Louisville was this year. I mean, they're getting in on that coaching search. I would imagine Josh Hurd was doing his due diligence a long time ago, right? And then, once players start, leaving, once they have one foot out the door, it's hard to get them to come back. So, it's interesting the way it works, but I'm with Jake, and I think, Mark, you're kind of in the same boat. There are a lot of good things with modern college sports, the way the NIL, transfer portal, everything else works. But I think that's one area where they have to get it cleaned up. One thing I wanted to ask you, Mark, real fast.
Sure.
TBT last year, it was a huge deal here in the Ville. I think it might be, even scaled even larger this year,
which is great,
which is amazing. Obviously, you stepped away and gone on to down different avenues, if you will. But what did you take away from that process? It sounded like, I listened in a lot. I heard there was a lot of moving pieces, trying to get these players in. They're not guaranteed to get paid by any means. They have to kind of do this on their own recognizance, right? If you have any stories, feel free to share as well about to get these guys here and get this team together.
Well, luckily I still have my hair after the whole season because it was a full-time job. It was like from day one, the people that were involved were fantastic. I'm so glad. I'm so proud as well of what we did and to establish that, the work that went in, and even up before that first game, I was on pins and needles because I just wasn't sure how it was going to look. As hard as we practiced, we watched film, trying to get all these guys in. Remember, they're professional players. These aren't, they're all over the place. Russ had, all these, as he had all these. Oh yeah, he's pumping the bourbon. He's at events. He's at, it's like, okay, Russ, we are playing a game, so we got to get you here for this stuff. But I completely understand that because part of enticing him was, hey, the promotion of Mr. and Mrs. Bourbon, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But there were so many logistical things that people just don't understand, from venues to where we're going to stay to practice times, to practice facilities, to uniforms. It was nonstop, and I loved every second of it. And I'm so proud of what we did. If they don't bank in that three, and we had a couple shots, we're playing, and who knows how far we'll go. But that's basketball. But of what we did for this city, and obviously there were the dark times, and I know you're not big Star Wars, so the Empire. And
I
stuff
am
like
now.
that, but
I am now.
Fair enough. But look, the last 2 years, we're not going to mince words. It was tough for people around here. It was a tough time basketball wise, and for what we created, to take everybody down memory lane, and to have Peyton Siva and Russ Smith and Kyle Kirk and Shane and Anawaku, and then to have other guys and Dylan Avar and Wayne Blackshear, and then you have Nick Mayo and Omar, guys who just embraced it, and Chris Dow. I mean, it was the feedback was amazing. The fans, everything was just beautiful. We played so hard. It was so great to give that to the fans. And look, moving forward, I know Reese is going to do a great job, and you're going to have Montrez is playing this year, and Montrez is fantastic. But I'm also, I'm so happy it's continuing. And time-wise, I'm actually going to be out of the country at the end of July. I'm going to be involved with the El Salvadorian national team. I'm going to be help coaching with that too. Wow. So I knew I was going to be doing some coaching. I knew I'd be doing some traveling and getting this program up and going. So look, regardless, I am so thankful for the TBT, for the Ville, for everything we did. It's going to be fun. I'll be watching from afar, but I'm so excited to see this team do really well.
Mark, do you ever sleep?
Yeah, seriously.
No, I learned that from Rick Pitino. So yeah, listen, there are times I'm a big TV and movie guy, so that's the ways I kind of decompress. But right now, there's no rest for the weary. But I'm used to it. Like I'm consumed by all this stuff as well. The great thing is I can control, like, going on a great podcast with you guys. But that stuff is important to me. But being able to control all the narratives and time wise, but I'll sleep here and there. So
what you sleep in May, right?
Yeah, you sleep in May. Well, it is May. It is May.
You're not sleeping in May.
That's a big John Rothstein thing, right? Sleep in May.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I was about to say maybe him, not the coaches though. So what's on the docket right now? You mentioned TV and movies. Are you a guy are you a binge watcher, or you catch a couple episodes and then you move on to something else and then come back?
No, I'm. There's so many people that come to me for recommendations, and in the evening sometimes, if my daughter's sleeping or whatnot, or where it really came up is all the traveling I did when I was at Louisville, when I was at FIU, in Southeastern Louisiana, and the other places. You're flying, you're traveling. It was just always putting in the movie or putting in a video. And then Richard Bettino and I would always go to the movies on game days, and that was our big thing. Okay. So we would always catch movies. So that's just for me, if I wasn't doing this in another life, I'd love to be a film critic or just review movies. In fact, I'm going to talk to you guys because I'm going to start tweeting out like reviews and that kind of stuff, because I get that all the time. I got a lot of good feedback with my putter for the plays with basketball. I don't know if you guys caught any of those. I was doing the plays from last year's Louisville team. I think this year will be a lot more fun doing some of the Louisville commenting on Louisville basketball and reviewing that. But yeah, I'm gonna get the movie thing going. I just got to figure out a plan. Maybe you got
to start Mark's movies reviews. I don't know if that rolls off the tongue or not, but set like one movie per week. Have the people watch. Maybe it's like a new Netflix or Hulu release or an Apple TV, or maybe a throwback that they just threw on streaming.
Right. Or an old movie for you because your
exactly.
fiance is watching that. So
yes.
What you need to do is send what you're watching, and I can review that one. And if you think it's going to impress your fiance, I'll give it a good review. All right, I'll throw you a bone.
I appreciate that. No, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. It's just I think that I'm 30 years old, just grew up. It's kind of like when my life started. That's when the movies started, right? So I don't know, but
I get it.
Yeah. I don't know, Jake. How are you
here?
with that? Are you like that?
Presley,
Oh,
are you
no,
from here? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm from Louisville, born and raised.
Okay.
So yeah, that's and I think it's just more of an upbringing thing. Like some people come up with their parents watching a lot of oldies, and that's how you kind of get into it. I am a big
Exactly.
Back to the Future guy. Love Back to
All
the
right.
Future. I
That's
don't know if
good.
that's a huge movie critic trilogy by any means, but that's
It's
one
a good
that
one. It's solid. It's a
it's a
good one.
comfort watch, right? It's
Exactly.
yes,
Yes.
especially the original is a great comfort watch. But
It really is. Yep.
but yeah, I got to dive into some of those older ones for sure. And that's the other thing, you get into the Star Wars thing. As we went along on the story arc of Star Wars, the newer they got, I was like, all right, this is way more believable. The graphics are better,
Exactly.
like. But no, apparently, if you're a purist, you gotta
Uh-huh.
love the, what is it? 4 through 6, right? That's how it goes.
Right.
4 through 6, then one
Episode
through three.
New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and then Return of the Jedi. But if you need to reel me back in for basketball, but I would suggest to you The Godfather. If you haven't seen the Godfather movies, I'd
Yes,
go.
seen The
Okay.
Godfather.
Okay.
Seen. I'm trying to think of other like mob or mafia movies that I've seen. I love those the
Yeah.
old like
Okay.
mafia type of movies. So
You got
I
some
can get
points
into
with me
all
then.
those. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Getting back into basketball just a little bit. How much have you been in tune with what Louisville basketball has coming in this season? I guess really the first question for me
Mm-hmm.
that I was curious about was how familiar were you with Pat Kelsey before this cycle? And have has any of your thoughts about him changed at all since his hiring?
Well, I knew his passion. I knew how hard he worked. When he was at Wake Forest, they used my gym at Monsignor Pace High School. When he was working for Prosser, they used our facility to practice when they were playing in the Junior Orange Bowl tournament. And then when I was at the Heritage School, after FIU in Georgia, my top assistant there, great guy, Joab Jerome, had played for Coach Kelsey at Winthrop.
Okay.
So, and Coach Kelsey and I have, crossed paths as you do in this business. So, yeah, and Joab raved about him, and I'd seen him in practice settings and whatnot. He's intense, which I love. He gets after it. He understands the community aspect, especially here in Louisville. So he's engaged, which is fantastic, and he's gonna demand excellence from his guys, and he's bringing in guys. He likes to play fast. He likes to, get after it. They want to push the ball. He's got a lot of guys who have high IQs, a lot of guys that can pass the ball. If you can't pass, you can't play. He's got willing passers. So guys aren't going to just kill grass and over dribble. They're going to move it, get the ball side to side. The guys he has, I mean, Terrence Edwards is a stud. Chucky Hepburn is a great point guard. He's a guy who's going to lead. And then they had just a bunch of guys who are similar. And then you add, Kasem, with Kasem Pryor, I watched a lot of South Florida. I mean, I think, he reminds me almost of like Chris Anderson, the Birdman. He's an energizer bunny. He can shoot, he's skilled, but his motor just gets after it. So fans are going to love him. I think he's put together a nice group. The toughest thing is it's very hard. You can never have too many good players, Presley. You can have too many egos. And the biggest thing he's going to do, everybody wants to play minutes. That's normal. Every kid wants to play. But you gotta be able to mold that, fit guys in, make them understand roles initially, and that if you can do that with a whole bunch of new guys, then you're going to be successful.
Yeah, I think there is kind of a necessity, right, to land these types of players when you're just completely starting from scratch, right? Like even when Kenny Payne came in, he kept quite, what was it, 5 or 6 guys at least. There was no foundation here, right? It was a complete start from scratch. I think it was a necessity. You had to bring in these types of players. Almost every one of these guys, it seems like he has a type, right? They're all stat stuffers. They all highest, mostly, solid to good 3-point shooters, great rebounders, great assist to turnover ratios. Everything that you'd want as a coach, that's what he's gone out and gotten. It seems like a lot of developed pieces, but as a coach, what goes into getting these guys to assimilate I know this is an undertaking that not very many people have been through, right? At a quasi blue blood program, adding 13 new players to the roster. But even if it was 7, right? Like how do you get the
Yeah, the first thing is to get. It's great that he has Rain Smith, and he has James Scott coming in that understand terminology, that understand. Hey, when coach says this is what's expected. If he wants a step up screen, he calls it a rocket screen. So those type of things are always helpful. You have 2 guys who know what's expected. Then you have the good thing is you have a lot of guys that have played a lot of college basketball. These guys are men. It's almost like you referenced the NFL before. It's like a guy that gets traded. He wants to learn the playbook. He gets it. It's not like a guy who's come in and he's wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. What's a college practice like? These guys understand that. You have guys that play at a high level, and now they're just going to tweak things. And, you'll never know until you get them on the floor. You think you have great character, and from what we've seen with these guys, you probably do. But now it's getting a matter of those guys trusting each other and understanding, trusting the past. And the simple things, it's going to probably take a little time that Terrence Edwards likes to cut and flash back to the elbow. Well, that's something, Chucky doesn't know yet, but that's going to be in open gyms. That's going to be in practices, a lot of 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, where they learn trust. They understand where guys like it, a sweet spot on a pass, all those things. And there's no way to speed it up. No matter who you are, if you're Pat Riley, John Wooden, it doesn't matter. It's just a process. And I'm sure Pat Kelsey understands that. His staff understands it, the undertaking. It's not like you just go in there and say, okay, well, we're just going to see what happens with it. No, they have a plan. The first week, we're going to do this. We'll just maybe walk through stuff for a week and make sure it's a mental sweat. So all those things are important. And whatever staff you have, you try and put that together to make these guys gel.
I was going to ask, with this team, with it being completely brand new pieces all coming together as an assistant at the college level, would you, in this non-conference schedule, would you just attack it? Would you schedule Kansas State's, Texas A&M's, or would you think maybe it makes more sense to go San Jose State, New Mexico State, lighten the load early and kind of let them learn and grow as that non-conference goes?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's like for each coach, some coaches don't want to live in their fears and they want to just see where their team is at and play the toughest competition early. And I know they're going for the Battle of Atlantis early on. So that's going to be a huge test for the Louisville squad. But there's also the fact that you want to make the NCAA tournament and you don't want to have a bunch of losses going into your conference schedule as well. So it's a little different, especially when you have the unknowns. Maybe you try and get some of those games where you can build up a good record and play it. If I'm in this situation, I know I'm going to be tested because we're playing in the Battle of Atlantis. We're playing the ACC. I want to make sure we have some games where it's like Rocky III. And I don't know if you know that movie reference.
Yes, I do.
You get a few patsies before you fight Clubber Lang, So you got to get a few wins under your belt. So I'd probably go that route. That's a good question.
As long as we don't lose our first exhibition game, I will be tickled.
Won't happen with this group. Won't happen.
I don't think so either.
I don't know if I was doing radio for that game. I was doing the game before, but for Louisville. But yeah, it was same things, but yes. And I feel for all Louisville fans the last couple of years.
It's been a tough one. Yeah, I always tell people, what was the number, Jake? I think I went to 27 games in the KP era.
It was a scary amount of games.
It was. Look, when you got the opportunity, I'm always going to support my team. I know a lot of people don't agree with that, but
I think that's the right way to do it. That's the right way to do it. I love it.
If I'm in town, I'm there. So, I guess when we're looking at roster construction, you have 11 guys on the roster right now. 9 of those guys, as we understand it, are going to play. But of those 9 guys, I don't think there's a guy listed over 210 pounds on this roster. When you're looking at a Kason Pryor or a James Scott, can you be highly successful at this level of college basketball with a roster that's slimmed down, or do you think they're going to try to put some weight on these guys? And what does that look like, and can you be successful that way?
Yeah, you can be, and that's a matter of your style of play, because there's always the argument now you have to have bigger, slower guys come out and guard the Pryors and the Scotts. So what you can do is, play a stretch position and go 5 out and do different things. The way they want to play, I'm sure, is getting up and down, maybe have a rim runner, but again, getting those guys to step out and be facilitators. That's why they signed Khalifa. They want to have bigs that can get into dribble handoffs, to zoom actions, pick and pops, and spread you out because they have another guys. They can post up in Edwards. So they're not worried about who they need to get in the post. And that's not going to be the forefront of how they play. They'll play some inside out, but I think it's really about a lot of stuff on the perimeter and causing mismatches and so on. And Pryor, again, might be slight, but if you watched him last year, he is just relentless. He rebounds outside of his area. He's obsessed with rebounding. So that factor, are they going to rely on him? If you watched his game, he can step out and shoot. He's going to face up guys and beat you off the bounce. So I don't know if he's going to be really back to the basket. Now, defensively, what you got to do is either you front a lot with those guys or you schematically learn how to, hey, we're going to fire the post, which is just trapping from different angles. And there's different ways to get away from it. But if you look at it from the whole, right, take Connecticut and Purdue out of it, and maybe Houston, there's not a lot of teams that just play through the post. Even Filipowski last year for Duke, he's stepping away from the basket. Yeah, he can score around it, but for the most part, bigs are stepping away in that game, the stretch game, which is very predominant in the NBA. You're seeing so much of that in college basketball too.
Yeah, I like the way you put it, Mark. The way I think as a fan, right, is, I think we think defensively sometimes. And I think you kind of flipped it on its head, right? We're thinking, oh, well, they have to guard Efton Reed or Ben Middlebrooks or Brandon Huntley Hatfield. And your thought process, and probably as a coach, that's the way you think, well, they have to guard our guys. And that's a great way to think about it. I think that we look at it as, one-on-one type of matchups or that sort of stuff. Or I look at like a UConn or a Purdue last year, and we say, oh, well, these teams were successful, so Louisville should go after that exact model. But I think the reality is probably somewhere in between. I think coaches are much more forward thinking in that aspect. So I think that's a great way to look at it.
Even with Connecticut, Klingman and Johnson, they were bringing them away from the basket. They were facilitators. Bigs have become such good passers as well, so they're bringing them away from it. And look, Edey was playing in the post, but he was also a guy that got into their dribble handoffs. But also, how was he attacked by Connecticut? They put him in drop coverage and ball screens. So with the bigs who can step out and create. So as a basketball coach, it's always like, okay, it's not just you're focusing on a scouting report. All right, what's their plays? We got to take this away. What most coaches do in the college game is, how do we attack them? How are we going to attack them from the offensive standpoint? How are we going to put them and compromise them? And that's part of when you're doing a scouting report. It's not just, okay, we know their plays. We're looking at, this is the best way to compromise their defense.
Yeah, and I think, when you look at it from an offensive side, that's perfect. When you look at it from a defensive side, I think that Kelsey and the staff have done a great job of assembling a roster of 1 through 3 that are excellent at pressuring the ball, which is something that when Kelsey has had good defensive teams, that's what they do a lot. They're a high pressure team. And I've said this a few times. I think that this is a little bit of a callback to maybe like the early 2010s Bettino teams. You got like a Presley, an Andre McGee, or a Jerry Smith, or Edgar Sosa, or even like a Siva or Russ. Like those are the types of players that they're bringing in defensively. You look at some of these defensive possessions by Chucky Hepburn, Korner Johnson. They love not just jumping passing lanes, not just being aggressive, but just being a menace on defense. They take pride in their defense. And that's not something Louisville fans have seen for probably 3 years, right? So, do you agree with that? Do you think that they've assembled a roster that fits their system well defensively?
Yeah, absolutely. And, he's going to he'll tweak some things because you're going from where they played at Charleston, that conference, and now you're coming to the ACC. But yeah, you got to have great on the ball defenders. You got to have guys that understand angles. And you talked about it, anticipation. We go back to what we talked about earlier. These are guys, they have high IQs. They played a lot of college basketball. It's not just the offensive end, now defensively. They've seen everything. They understand how we need to angle our body, get through a screen. Are we blitzing the screen? Are we in drop coverage? How to tag, how to take things away. These guys are vets, so they're going to have that. And you have a defensive disposition, which is what Coach Kelsey is also recruiting. So, yeah, that's part of it. And if you can create offense off your defense as well, yeah, that's a bonus.
When you look at this roster, we've got 2 scholarships left. A lot of people are saying that Noah Waterman is likely to fill one of those remaining 2. Is there anything that you're seeing, like, I think they're still weak here, whether it's a larger big man or maybe one more extra ball handler, an athletic wing. What are you thinking with this last roster spot?
Yeah, I think they've put a pretty good team together, and you got to be leery about what you do with those last two spots about guys who have expectations. I think the best route to go is either some young guys that really understand they have to develop, and they're willing to buy that time and sit and learn, which is very hard in this day and age because everybody has expectations of playing. Or the other route is to maybe look at the international kids who maybe are really excited to be here and you could hit lightning in a bottle with someone from overseas, and he's not ready yet, but can learn and play and get adjusted to the American style of basketball. And so, those are two ways that they can look at it, or they can be looking at it a completely different way. So, but I think that's the best route. I think they have their roster right now. If you can get some guys who are really glue guys, come in and practice hard and have a chance to develop into something and want to be part of that program, that's probably the best route for this team to go.
And then talking about that international, I know I've read a lot about his staff is well connected internationally, Australia especially. What does that mean to a staff to be able to grab somebody like a Deng Adele or a Gorky Zhang that you don't know much about, but in 2 years can be a centerpiece to your roster?
And that's exactly it. So the world's gotten smaller, so it's a situation where, and because recruiting is it's not minimalized because of the NIL, but if you can have connections maybe overseas and look at players that way, because remember, those guys don't get NIL. They don't get the NIL if they're foreign players, but they also have the opportunity to learn American basketball and have a chance and develop. So that's a key component. But most staffs now, they always have somebody that at least has a connection overseas. And a lot of coaches, where they've coached travel basketball or have done the international circuit and they've met so many people, I get recommendations all the time, even at the high school level. I get calls from people that are familiar with me from the college ranks. Hey, can you take this player? This is an overseas kid that can help. So in this business, you're constantly, Jake, looking for connections and people that are resources that can help you find players that can fit your team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to ask, maybe we can all three answer. Is there one player that he's recruited so far that you're most excited about? And I think Terrence Edwards, guys like that are the biggest ones, but is there one guy you've watched his tape and you're just like, oh my God, yes?
Well, Jake, you didn't have to say that because I was going to say Terrence Edwards because I watched a lot of his games. I actually did one of their games this year too. And I just think, he just knows how to play. He can score out of the post. He can find guys. He's got good length. He can shoot it. He can defend. He's one of those guys that are just, to me, he's really fun to watch. And then just getting Cason Pryor today, I'm a huge fan of him. He's going to be a fan favorite because he runs the floor. He can defend. He's blocking shots. He's just a whirling dervish. He's all over the place, and he rebounds outside of his area. So I just think overall, though, I mean, you can go almost over everybody. I've watched Javon Hadley play. I just, in the NCAA tournament, I thought he was really good. So really good
guy.
Glue guy, a bigger guard, a guy that can defend, understands his role. Guys like that are so valuable. I mean, you go down the list. There's, all these guys are going to be good fits for this team. Now you got to figure out, with Conley Roos, how do you fit him into everything and keep him happy? Because those are the type of guys in this day and age of college basketball. If they're not happy, it's like, okay, well, what's my next option? So you got to make sure he's a piece.
Yeah, you look at the top. He's the 8th ranked player to ever commit to Louisville, right? Mm-hmm. There's only 2 guys that have ever even seen the court of those 8 guys, which is crazy to think about. That's just how it's worked out for Louisville,
right?
And I think it could be another one of those if he only gets 5 minutes a game next season, where he's already looking for greener pastures. So that'll be an interesting one to watch. For me, the guy that stands out, Jake already knows this. Jacob already knows this. I was on a pod last night and I said the same thing. Abu Traore is my guy. I think everybody looks at the 3-point percentages and they're concerned, but it's not who he is. He's, a Dwayne Sutton type of player that, he's not concerned about getting buckets. He's concerned about distributing for others, creating extra possessions, defending, rebounding. He's statistically he was a unicorn last year. He was one of the only players in the country with his assist rate, block rate, rebounding rate, free throw percentages. He's just everything that a coach wants.
No question.
I'm very interested to see how he fits in this Louisville system, coming off of probably the weirdest story in college basketball last year, with their coach getting fired and then going to the tournament. So
exactly right. No, he was great over there at Long Beach, and like guys like that, coaches rarely take off guys who make the right play and can rebound. You're not taking those guys off the floor. And you talked about Dwayne Sutton. Yeah, he's a guy that's the ultimate guy that can be a glue guy and understands his role too. You try and find guys who can stay in their role and star in their role, and he's the type of guy that can do that.
I'm looking at the top 100 as we get out of here. The top 100 IMDb movies of all time. Rough count. I went over them very fast. I've seen about 80 of them. Okay. That's pretty good. I think
I was not expecting that. If you had just said of the top 100 movies, 80, and if I was going to do like Card Sharks over or under, I'm going under for that. So I'm impressed. That's good, Presley.
After the Star Wars check-in, I think you guys were thinking it was going to be like 20. But no, I'm pretty well versed in movies. It was just that I happened to grow up in a household. I was in one of those households where my mom wouldn't let me watch Harry Potter, right? So it was just like one of those. I've had to do some catching up in some areas. I know. Yeah. I know. I don't know what it is.
No, you're young. I mean, for me, is like that's all I used to do. We would go to the movie theaters, my mother and I.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah. That was my brother's wedding day. Just like you said, it calms the nerves for whatever reason. You take somebody to the movies, and that's what guys do, right? Like, like if my fiance is going to go out for a drink with one of her friends or something, they want to go out. And I'm like, yeah, let's go to the movies. What'd you learn about your brother today? Absolutely nothing. We ate popcorn and didn't say a word. It was great.
It's the best. Yeah,
it's
the best. That's what we do. See,
right,
from an age, before you get to that, Presley, I'm from an age where my parents would just drop me off at the movies and I'd be there all day. And so I didn't have a cell phone and I'm just there and I watch double features. So, they had no idea if somebody had just run off with me. That's just the way it was back in the day. Anyway, go ahead.
Let's go top 10 IMDb movies, and you tell me overrated, underrated, or properly rated. Okay. Which is going to be tough because they're the top 10 movies of all time, according to the people.
Well, that's according to them. I've got my own list, but let's see what they've got.
Okay, so Shawshank Redemption is number 1. I mean, I think that's pretty close on everybody's list. Would you say that's number 1? I mean,
no, I would not say that's number 1, but I would say that it needs to be in the conversation.
Yeah, like if we're nominating the Oscar, it's on the list. It's in the top 6 or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's right there. Yes.
The Godfather's number 2.
Obviously, I'm not going to have any problems. Yes, I do prefer Godfather Part 2 slightly over 1.
I can see that. A lot of people say that, and I could totally see that. So my personal favorite, but again, I'm much younger, Dark Knight at number 3.
Oh, come on. Dark Knight is, if it wasn't even a superhero movie, it's one of the most iconic performances of all time. Heath Ledger, who there was such a backlash, with Warner Bros. About him being the role of the Joker. It was one of the most iconic. It's on par with Darth Vader as one of the most sinister villains of all time in movie history.
I love it. Return of the King, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King is number 4.
See, I love the Lord of the Rings movies.
Me too.
So I think one of my assistant coaches absolutely just lives for those movies. I think they were fantastic. Samwise Gamgee carrying Frodo at the end. Come on, man. Doesn't get any better than that.
I think people get thrown off by them because they're very dialogue heavy. There's a lot of just, are they ever going to get there type of feelings in the movie? But I think I'm a patient guy. So.
Me too. And I enjoy the process. You got to enjoy the process. The only thing with the second one, the Two Towers, was the talking trees. The trees, I could do without that.
Yeah, so. They could have definitely gone back and redone them and kept them under 3 hours. I think personally.
Agreed.
Just my thought. Number 5, Schindler's List.
Which that's a real bright movie.
Very bright movie. That's one of those you see once and you're like, I don't know if I want to see that twice.
Yeah, that's not a rewatchable. But if you remember, Jerry Seinfeld was making out during Schindler's List. I don't know if you're a Seinfeld fan.
Yes. Oh, love Seinfeld. Yes.
Okay. Remember he got in trouble for making out with his girlfriend during Schindler's List. But
Yeah, not the best movie to pick for that, but perfect Seinfeld episode. 12 Angry
Yes.
Men is number 6, which I think is a wonderful movie.
All right. See, now you've
Yeah,
gained some points from me.
Yeah.
Because Presley, that's one of my all-time favorites. Henry Fonda is he is brilliant. And that movie, I love that movie. I watch it two or three times a year at least.
Really? Yeah. I mean, it's another one of those, the dialogue is just so perfect. And it's a quick in and out too. I think it's like an hour 30, hour 40.
It's not very long. It's just to have 12 guys sitting in the room for almost all the movie and just talk. It's beautiful. It's well shot. It's yes.
Very well done, especially for the time period. Again, as you know, I'm a critic of the old the older movies.
Yeah, but right now you're like, you've been a fan of the Godfather movie. You've been a fan of 12 Angry Men. Yeah. Jake, do you have any thoughts on any of these movies or no?
Yeah. Have you seen 12 Angry Men?
I have, yeah. I took a film class at Louisville.
Really?
There you go.
All right.
Watched
Look at you.
Thank you. The one thing I know about 12,
yeah.
Thank you. The 12 Angry Men, it doesn't have a rating. Like it's not PG-13. It's just rated approved, which I guess is just what they did back in the 50s.
I think so.
That's the one thing I remember my teacher
They didn't
told me.
have a lot of sex, violence, and gore. That wasn't in the movies.
Or cursing.
Or that. Right.
Or
sexual content. That was not part of the movies.
Totally different. Godfather Part 2 is number 7. We've already talked about. Maybe that should be like 3, 4.
Maybe 1. Maybe 1.
Yeah. Fellowship of the Rings is number 8.
Okay.
Pulp Fiction is 9.
Okay. Big Quentin Tarantino fan.
Yeah. Oh, love Tarantino. I'm I love Hateful Eight. I know everybody hates on that one. I love that movie.
I think it's a good movie. I wouldn't put it in his top 5, but I would say, look, Quentin Tarantino's movies are great. To me, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Inglourious Bastards, and then Pulp Fiction. That's my order of his movies.
Really? What about Django? We put Django.
Django's 4th. It's right there.
Okay.
Because look, he's got some great stuff. And Reservoir Dogs is fantastic.
It's a great one as well. Now, number 10 is a 2023 movie that I've never heard of. It's called The 12th Fail. Have you seen this?
The 12th Veil?
12th Fail. Like flunking. Yeah. Has an 8.9 rating. And see, this is where we get that whole. So I don't know if you remember, there was like a period for like a year where, what was it? Paddington Bear 2 was the highest rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's a solid movie.
It's a solid movie. I love
my daughter loves it. Thank you, Jake.
Exactly.
My daughter loves that movie. Yes.
I mean, I'm 30 years old and I'd watch Paddington Bear tonight. It's a fantastic movie, but it's just like this, The 12th Fail.
I don't get stumped. I'll be honest with you guys. I never get stumped. There's movies that are just very, you make an arcane reference. I'm gonna know the movie. This movie, that's surprising.
Yeah, it looks like it's an Indian film.
Yeah, and so that is one thing. I think I've seen almost everything that's like very popular pop culture related on Netflix to the point of like me and Megan are sitting there some nights and it's like we're going through Hulu, Netflix, Paramount, HBO Max. We're like trying to figure out what have we not watched. And so
with your fiance's taste, and this is TV. It's a very obscure show. It's called The Bureau. It's on AMC Plus, so you're gonna have to like finagle and maneuver and just buy it.
Do like a 3-month
rent it for
trial
10 days, right? Or one, 2-week trial or something. The Bureau.
Okay.
It is one of my top rated shows of all time.
Really?
It's a thriller. It's about the almost like the French MI5 and like the their FBI and stuff like that. It is phenomenal. It is international intrigue.
That sounds like something she might have seen already. Knowing how she is.
It's aces. It's aces.
So I'm that guy that walks in from playing golf or like a late night at work or something. I'm like, what are you even watching? And the next thing you know, we're like on season 3. And I don't even know what the title of the show is.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm definitely one of those. The Bureau I have to check out. I wonder if it's better than Low Winter Sun. I don't know if you get that reference at all. You guys are
I do. Yes.
So there was those memes back in the day. Jay, did you watch Breaking Bad when it was on TV?
No, I've seen it since, but not on TV.
Breaking Bad was like one of the last shows where everybody watched it as it came out on TV.
Exactly.
And you know how they always try to throw these new shows at you, like if you're watching like The Bear on FX or like one of those, and it's always like, stay tuned for the next episode of Low Winter Sun, and everybody's like, we're watching the best show of all time. Leave us alone.
Leave us alone
about Low Winter Sun. Inception.
You mentioned the Inception. We'll get
Inception
to.
was
You
11.
mentioned the bear. You mentioned the bear.
The Bear, great show.
Okay, you're growing on me here.
So
okay,
I spent all of college, and then took like a year off, and then back into the restaurant business. So I spent about 7-8 years total working in the restaurant business. Took me to Boston, Massachusetts for 2 months, and then ultimately got out of it during COVID. But yeah, it was like that came out right after that, and it was like PTSD, man. It's spot on.
Nick loves it. Nick Valvano. I turned him on to it, and he thanks me to this day.
Oh, that's right up their alley.
Yeah. Inception. I liked it. Obviously, not my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. It was. Yeah. I wouldn't put it in the top 25. I wouldn't even put it in the top 50.
Yeah, and I think the cast is great. I think it's well thought out. Like, it's one of those movies that maybe is too smart for its own good. I don't even know if that's in my top 5 Leo movies, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's way too high.
But it's very well thought of, and I think because at the time it was very revolutionary the way the CGI was and all that.
Of course.
Forrest Gump is 12. I think that could be a top 10 worthy for a lot of people.
I would certainly put it above Inception, but
it kind of pisses me off every time I watch it because I just don't like Jenny so much.
Richard Pitino's favorite movie, by the way. If that's
Forrest Gump.
Interested? Yeah.
Really? Really? I wouldn't have guessed that. I don't know why.
That's his movie.
What's Rick's favorite movie? Do we know?
Rick, shockingly, the Godfather movies.
Yeah, I was shockingly.
That. Shockingly.
I can't believe that.
If you ever watch Michael Corleone, like when he plays with his fingers like this when he's walking around, and watch Coach Pitino, they do the same thing. So,
ever watch? You didn't say Paddington.
I love that. My daughter loves Paddington, and we just watched Paddington 2. It was fantastic. I'd seen it before. She loves those movies.
They are great. I don't know what it is. Just the storyline is perfect. It's just a very comforting environment it creates.
Absolutely. The British do a good job.
Sorry. Yeah. They do. 13's Fight Club.
Great movie. I'm a fan of Fight Club. It wasn't initially received very well. And Brad Pitt and Edward Norton laughed about it. It was debuted in Cannes or Cannes, however you want to say it. And they talked about enjoying some marijuana as in the back and laughing throughout all the booze, and just thought they made a great movie. And it's one of those things that initially people didn't have a great reaction, and now it's considered a very cultish classic type of movie.
I mean, I loved it the first time I saw it. It reminded me though of this Edward Norton movie at 47, American History X, which is, I think that's the best one that I've seen of his.
There's only one big problem with that movie.
Okay.
When in the basketball scene, when he goes up and kind of has the dunk, but they don't really show it, and it's like a bad angle, and he's not going to be that far above the rim. Yes. And so that I always believe in any movies, if you're going to have, I don't care if it's 100 sports scenes or just one, just be as authentic as possible.
Nail it. You got to nail it.
Yeah. Hollywood struggles so badly to make sports look believable. Like I guess actors just aren't athletic typically. I don't know what it is, but like High School Musical is so sad to watch when like Zac Efron's this basketball star and he can't dribble with his left hand. It bothers me so much.
Yeah, you could tell Edward Norton wasn't a big basketball player, so I wasn't buying that he was dunking the basketball.
Yeah, it's kind of like that scene in Like Mike. I don't know if you remember that one where he was, where he like jumps from the free throw line or something like that. I was trying to think of, so golf movies. I'm a huge golf guy. I know Jake is a little bit. Mark, it sounds like you're not as much. But movies that nail golf, they just get me. Greatest Game Ever Played. If you've ever seen that one, that's one that might be in my top 10. That is a fantastic movie. And Shia LaBeouf's swing is top notch. Like they did some good work with that guy.
That definitely is. Are you a Tin Cup fan?
Love Tin Cup.
Okay, me too.
Love Tin Cup. Happy Gilmore, not as high up there, but I'm excited for Happy Gilmore too.
Right. So, I think Kevin Costner, any sports movie he's in, is just fantastic.
Yes,
I
agree.
He nails it. He's such a good athlete. He was in what was it? Breaking Away, the bicycle racing movie too.
Yes.
Whatever he's done sports wise, he nails it.
He does. Well, I mean, we could go down this list forever, but we're gonna have to just start picking some out. That's one of those things, you know. I love Twitter or Instagram or one of those. You get such a variety of people, right? Like you could get somebody on there that's, you know, 18 years old, a baby, you know, fresh out of high school, and they've never seen any of these movies. You could get somebody that's 100 for 100 on IMDb, right? So
I'll give you three movies. I'll give you three movies
Okay.
that one's Emily the Criminal.
I've seen that.
Okay.
It's a great movie.
Yes, I really enjoyed that one.
Yep.
I will give you Midnight Run.
Okay. I haven't seen that one.
That is Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin. And it's
Okay.
Robert De Niro's first like comedic. There's about 912 F-bombs in that movie.
Love that.
It's one of the funniest movies. He's a bounty hunter and Charles Grodin's running from the mob. And it's fantastic. I got to check.
This might be tonight's movie if we can find it.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Midnight Run, you will not be disappointed. And then the last one, which was always one of my favorites, was The Manchurian Candidate, the original.
Okay. All right. I was going to say there's a remake, right?
Right. With Denzel Washington and Lee Schreiber.
Yes. I've seen that one.
Yeah, no.
I was going to say, I don't, that doesn't seem like that's up your alley.
No,
so. Okay,
Frank Sinatra was in the original. Check out the original. Your fiance is going to love it.
Okay. Yeah. I think she will. 1962. That sounds like that's right up her alley for sure. Jake, any movie recommendations for me? Anything that you got? What's do you have a top five? Are you
not anything too niche? I mean, I think one movie that needs to be top 10 is Gladiator. I love that movie.
I respect it.
Jay. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Russell Crowe is incredible in that, and I'm rewatching Game of Thrones right now. So just love the time period.
Have you seen L.A. Confidential with Russell Crowe?
I don't think I have. No, I don't think I have.
Okay. Check that out.
I've heard LA Confidential as well. Okay.
Yeah, and the last thing, Presley, I'll tell you this. Memento, which was Christopher Nolan's, I think, first movie.
Yes.
Have you seen that one?
Yes.
That was
a solid
really
one.
Joe Pantoliano was in that one too. Yeah, it's good. Okay. We could do this all night, guys. We could do this all night.
We could. Well, we're gonna have to have you back on or come up with some sort of interactive either whether it be radio or social media or something. So yeah, I think tomorrow if you get Bob and Nick talking about it tomorrow, you guys are going to not talk any golf tomorrow. So that might behoove you.
I'm on it. So
all right, beautiful. Hey, well, Mark, it's been great. Wonderful talking to you. Thank you for so graciously providing your time. We're looking forward to seeing you. I've already heard, I was listening to Rummage on the radio the other day. He's already the biggest Holy Cross fan in Louisville, apparently. So,
yeah, he is. He's calling me every day. In fact, he's probably going with me into Cincinnati to watch some players. He's become my lead recruiter, so it's great.
Unbelievable. I believe it, though. I believe it. So we're excited for you, man. I can't wait to see what the future brings, and we will hopefully talk to you very soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks. Good talking to you.
Good talking to you, Mark.
Cheers.